What up? What up? It's the man Sean P coming in live. This is the Sean P Experience. That's right. Episode 2 on YouTube. Got a very, very different and exciting show for y'all today. You don't want to miss it, man. Go ahead, get your snacks, get your favorite drink, but most of all, get you a pen and something to write with. Dropping gems today. I got my sister on the live, Tatiana OB. We going in talking about Sistah Samurai. Go ahead and get comfortable. If you're driving, be safe. Turn your volume up. You can hear it. We're gonna rock and roll, man. How you doing, my sister? How you doing? Good evening.
I'm good. I'm good. How are you? Finally able to like sit down and chat? Because I know this has been in the works for a
Wow,
while. So
wow,
finally glad to be
wow.
here.
I am so excited. I don't think the average person realizes the background to doing these shows, how long we're talking and preparing and doing this relationship building before showtime. So it's been months in the making. I'm very, very glad that today is the day. I told y'all on the promo, get y'all graphic tees, get y'all
Yes.
gear together. You know what I'm talking about? We in here getting it in, man. Doing this black fantasy, we're doing this anime, we're doing the blurs, we're doing all of that, man. So my first question always, this is called sitting with the griots, right? The griots, the African storytellers, they carry the traditions as they travel and things like that. How do you feel being a modern day griot or grioti, being a female, carrying those stories, bringing it to the future generations? How do you feel about that?
I mean, I feel so honored because at least in my family, like I'm kind of the only writer. The creative folks in my family are usually singers. So I'm like the only like writer in the family. And I've been doing it ever since I was little, like, and like just knowing that gift that for storytelling, just kind of keeping the traditions alive, keeping those storytellers in our family and in our ancestry alive. And today,
So when I mentioned keeping the tradition and the griot title, do you feel any kind of extra weight or any kind of extra pressure from that, or is it like not even a thought? You're not thinking about that.
it's not really a thought because this is what I do. Like, even if I wasn't publishing books, even if I wasn't sharing books, I write. like that's what I've always been like that. It's always what I've been doing, and it's just it's something I carry with me always. So it doesn't even feel like a weight at this point.
I love the answer where it's like if I'm publishing or not, I write. That's powerful. What you just said is powerful. Like I write anyway. It's
Yeah.
really, really in you. Is of you. It's not about what people seeing. In my by myself, I'm writing. I like that response. Yeah. So you mentioned singers in your family. Can you sing?
No. No, I am so tone deaf.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Okay.
I'll
Okay.
let them handle it.
Mhm. So we're here to talk about your book, Sister Samurai. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna do a little. I'm about to show the book for the people. Here we go. Here we go. Tapping into this technology.
Eh.
Y'all see it, man. Wonderful cover, beautiful. Look at that. Look at that imagery. We all talk about representation these days. Our girls need to see representation. Tell us about the making of this cover, what you was thinking about, and all the pinks throughout this whole book. What is it with the pink to you?
Well, okay, so I pink is a very important color in the book, and I actually personally hate the color pink. I don't know. I don't know if that comes across, but
Are you serious?
yes. That's because I was traumatized when I was younger. Like, I had a younger sister who loved pink, and so since she was the youngest, everything was pink, and I'm just like, I'm so tired. I'm so tired of this color. But I chose pink very specifically because this book and this work is an homage to an older anime called Afro Samurai. And Afro Samurai, it was written by a Japanese manga writer, but a lot of people know it as in the form of, as it is right now, an anime, which was co-produced by Samuel L. Jackson. And but within this anime, there's very, very, very limited representation of Black women. So it's like, okay, we finally get the Black men, having katanas and chopping people up. But where are my women at? Where are they at? So this is also somewhat of a commentary, like, to Afro Samurai, saying like, we're here. this is ours. This is taking ownership of a color that, what is considered very feminine, but at the same time, way back in the day, pink, the shade of pink, this cherry blossom pink, was associated with samurai. So it is also symbolically the color of a samurai. So bringing those two
Wow.
symbols together and commenting on it during the story.
I've never in my life heard that. And I love martial art, lifelong martial art guy. I've never heard that was the original color. Okay.
Yeah, because
Okay.
cherry blossoms, one of the things about cherry blossoms is they bloom so briefly. So you want to appreciate them while they're here, while they last. But because they bloom so briefly, it started becoming the symbol of the life of the samurai. Samurai life that was cut down to short, that was just very brief, very beautiful, but very short. And so that color began to become associated with them, and you see it in a very lot of like Japanese symbology, Japanese poetry, even in a lot of samurai films you'll see that motif.
Wow. 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 Okay, let's rewind it back a little bit, right?
Okay.
Tell me, at what point in your life did you get such an affinity for anime and the comics and things like stereotypically, we'll get to that later. Stereotypically, people would think it's not really something that we do. It's not really our culture. We're not really over there. So how did that start for you?
I don't know, like it was really young. Like I remember coming home, like watching Toonami and like Dragon Ball Z and Adult Swim and stuff. And it's like, back in the day, there was very, very few animation that had Black people in it. But when you started seeing this Japanese, like this, and as a kid, you don't know it's Japanese, but you're like, wait, this is different. Like they ain't white. Like this is something different. So it made it much easier to like imagine yourself in that space. And also, I also come from like a family of like my mom is a big Lord of the Rings fan, so she carries that she carries that torch with her. And my dad was also a big like Bruce Lee, Kung Fu, Dragon Ball, like just really big like martial arts fan. And so like I don't know, like I definitely gravitated towards it. Cause I mean, like, yeah, like a lot of girls, they like Sailor Moon, but I also like Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z. Like I like, like I'm just like I'm here for the
Yeah,
beat downs.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, 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 yeah,
So that's what I'm here
oh,
for.
yeah. And I asked you a long time ago, of course, in our back and forth banter in the private conversation, but it's like I know I love seeing my sisters when they were out in town wearing their hoodies and they wearing their bags and whatever they're wearing. And I asked you as a woman, like what that's like to walk around wearing stuff. It's not really normally common, so
Yeah.
the reaction to it is what I was asking you about, in private. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of like, oh, wait, so wait, you like anime? Like you like this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you get a
Mm-hmm.
lot of those responses as, a Black girl nerd. It very much is like, why are you in this space? This is kind of ours. But like I've
Mm-hmm.
grown up with this. I've enjoyed this. Like I come to the yard with my Pokemon cards. Let's go, let's go.
Yeah. And
And
I was
so
telling you
yeah.
how I want to pay homage right now to the sisters that sit and read their awesome podcast. You'll be a great guest for their show. I'm saying it right now. They deserve this interview because they are really gun ho, lifelong in that space, and
Yeah.
they probably have a whole different pocket of questions I can never think of. I'm pretty new to the space, right? But they always told me their trials and tribulations as black women, wearing this stuff, and guys kind of trying to give them an on the spot quiz, and you don't know about this, and you don't know about that. They got to pretty much bust
Yeah.
them down to make them realize that, man, I do this. I'm not just
And
going to warm
yeah,
up buying stuff. I really, really, I like this.
yeah, and that's the importance of like why I approach to writing this book is, a lot of people take it for granted, but the importance of seeing us in that space, right? Because I do feel as if in regards to the anime kind of fandom, Black men are accepted more because you do have those properties of like Afro samurai. You do have, now this historical Yasuke, who historically is confirmed like as was a Black samurai. So you see those spaces, and it's like, okay, like these exist, and it is important to see that representation and to see yourself there, to say that like we're here too.
Yeah, yeah. I love to always educate my audience, man, that those that might not know, even myself, right? Could you explain for us a little bit the fantasy genre in writing and the sci-fi genre, and some of the sub genres maybe that exist in that? Could you break that down for us?
Yeah, ooh, there are a lot of subgenres within like fantasy and sci-fi. And generally, fantasy and sci-fi, they do share a lot of tropes. But fantasy typically is in a more speculative in the past, even though you can have contemporary fantasy, for example, fantasy that happens in the modern day with fantastical elements. And typically sci-fi is a little bit more futuristic, or how future technology, future kind of problems, and in a more speculative space. So, for example, sci-fi, you can think of Dune, you can think of Star Wars, Star Trek, these really big properties. Fantasy, thinking of Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Wheel of Time that's out right now. So like these big things on
Okay.
our TVs right now.
And would you say typically these are pretty normal like big books, right? They're like the big joints. They're like
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So your hand in this back to my technology. Da-da-da-da. Bones to the I love the imagery, man. Like just coming across your page when I first came across it, like, man, who is this? What in the world? Who is this person? I had to find. Tell us about a little bit about Bones to the Wind, if you will.
Sure. So, Bones to the Wind is it's about a dangerous rite of passage, and like all these kids have to like go out to the desert, hunt this monster in order to become adults. And and shenanigans ensue. There are like wind ships, there are dragons. It's wild.
And once again, back to the imagery. I don't know who your artist person is, but shout out to them. Tell us if you can some of the background, like y'all sitting down discussing, like, man, gonna look like this, man, like that. Like, how does that normally work?
Yeah, this worked really well because I found the portfolio. And when I look at artists, I always kind of look at artists with artwork similar to what I'm envisioning. And specifically for her, I knew she did um, characters of color because, to be honest, not a lot of artists, especially if they're not Black, can draw characters of color well. You can always tell. And also she was also very good with lighting and color, and that's exactly what I wanted to bring into this, more of a coming of age story, a little bit brighter than covers typically are.
So this is a great question. The chicken and the egg kind of analogy. Like you said, like, you know what? Give me the cover first. Now I'm writing to this cover, like as far as the descriptions and all that. Or you write the story and then find the artist and like, look, I said on page this, look like this, you like that.
um I'm a little, because I also want to give artists kind of the ability to kind of be inspired and to do their own thing. But at least for me personally, I always have an idea of what I want, because I kind of am a perfectionist. Like, I have an idea of what I want. And for this cover specifically, this character, I've had her in my head since I was in high school, and I needed someone who could draw the swagger of this
Wow,
specific character, and
this
she
is
nailed it.
nasty.
So that's exactly what I was looking for. So like, not everything I would say is
Yeah,
one to one on the for the how I describe her exactly in the
yeah,
book,
yeah.
but the vibes are there. Like
And
that's Raja to the T.
we'll go somewhere different with this later on in the interview about movies and adaptations. But
Okay.
like, I didn't really realize till this morning, early in the morning. I work at night, of course, right? So Dr. Yaba Blay was talking about the new Color Purple that's coming out pretty soon,
Yeah.
and she had an old interview talking about the old Color Purple movie versus the book, and she starts to break down the way that Alice Walker described Harpo, for example, or Suge
Mm-hmm.
Avery, and like the contrast between that and the book, what it says she looks like versus the person that they casted. I didn't even really realize it until she said it last night, But so I was asked that kind of a question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, like, it's always great to be like exactly, but there's a point to where you can't be like, hey, artist, please change this in like this tiny bit and this tiny bit and this tiny bit and this tiny bit. Like you got to give them some range, some inspiration, you know, some range to work from.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I just
but
want
yeah,
to show some more of your work, man. So we're here to discuss Sistah Samurai, but I wanted them to see the other work. Man, you got wonderful, beautiful work. I've been blessed to read a few of your works, man, and wonderful writing, storytelling, characters, world building. I mean, there's so many
thank you.
pieces to get into with this interview, man. If I only touch some of it. When it comes to world building, let's get into that a little bit. So a lot of
Sure.
time in the fantasy world, I'm noticing you have the maps. I love maps, first of all. So tell me about the importance of maps to you. The importance of maps. You have so many like features in your books. It's like your books is a mixtape. There's so many things going on. So tell us
Yeah.
about the importance of maps in these books.
Yeah, so there's a very specific map in these books. And one of the things I like to do is it not just be a map, but to also show character in a way. So in the first book, there's Raj's map. And in the second book, there's Nico's map. And even though it shows the same items in the map, they're completely different depending on whose map it is. And I just like love doing those little touches that add character to the story.
So once again, we have writers watching this show. I love trying to give them like tips, information. How difficult is it like creating the map? It's cool to look at, but how
Yeah.
difficult is it to like, sit there and really think about? Okay, they got the mountains, you got the this, and what's that like?
I mean, it's definitely more difficult than you would think because you definitely need to have like geography in mind. Like, you know, like rivers just don't run willy nilly. You have,
It seems hard as hell to me.
so you do have to definitely kind of give it some thought to how things would work and like how the climate would work. I mean, it is very interesting, for example, kind of going back to a lot of people might have seen Game of Thrones. And in Game of Thrones, you know, he does like this very long seasons of winter and very long seasons of spring and like how that works with each other. So kind of like just like these cool world building ideas you have and how it translates to like a map, like a physical item.
Now, as the creator, whenever a person's reading your book, do you envision them when you mention something, they're going back to the front where the book, where the map is, and oh, that's what that is. That's what this is. Or do you think they're gonna just pretty much like bypass? They're not going back to it. How do you see it as a creator?
Man, I honestly, I know how I am as a reader. As a reader, I very rarely go back because I do feel as um, if it's written well, and if your geography is written well in the text, I don't need to go back. Usually, I have to go back if it's not written well. But you know, like there, you know, again, I used to teach English in South Korea, and knowing that people are different type of learners. There are more auditory learners, there's more visual learners, and you know, sometimes help having these visual guides can be helpful, especially for people going into like these really big fantasy tomes that gives you a lot of information.
Yeah, yeah. So you went that you mentioned that you jumped me, but I'm gonna do it right now. In Sister Samurai in particular, you have a soundtrack inside the book. Let's say it again. I've seen soundtracks to books. You have a soundtrack inside the book. You have the visual guide breaking down all of these Japanese words.
Yeah.
That's important. You have a commercial break in your book. I told my homies I've never seen a commercial break in the book. Do the ad and then back to where you picked up. That was crazy. That was nuts. I kept looking at it like, wait a minute, that's crazy.
And
You have
believe
all
it or
these
not,
things.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say, believe it or not, that was a last minute addition.
Hey, hey, that choice was the chef's kiss. That was good because we all read hundreds of books here in Instagram, Bookstagram. So for something to really stand out, it's kind of rare actually. But that was like a whoa, this is different, right?
Yeah.
But just tell us the reason why, as an artist, you made those creative choices. Like why?
You know, I think it's very one of the reasons why I decided to go indie and not publish trad because, you know, like when I write, I do envision a project very holistically, and the way that a reader comes into it very holistically. So from, like the map, from the chapter headings, just kind of like all the little pieces that make up the story. I do really enjoy kind of just having control over all those little creative choices. And that really just, brings more to the story. To me, it's more than a book. It's an art piece, right? Like, and just bringing that whole experience into it. Hello.
Yeah, I love it. What's going on, Billy? Always supporting. No, I love it because as an artist myself, I tell people you got to have multiple views in one head. Like I got to write it the way I want as a creator. I got to be able to read it as a reader. That's
Yeah.
different. And then see it as an editor. Like these are all different eyes in one head. Like it's difficult to do that. It's like an out of body experience to be able to have a holistic product. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
difficult.
but that's definitely like how my brain works. Like, even I'm just like, yeah, like the visual glossary, like, because, and also I did also bring in early reviewers to kind of help me see the things that I was missing. And the funny thing is, when I wrote this book, I honestly thought that the only people who would be interested in it are people who had watched Afro Samurai. Like, oh yeah, I like that anime, this sounds dope, I'm gonna pick it up. But I was shocked how many people who were reading it and did not know anything about anime. They're just like, black lady with a sword, we want it, we want to read it. So I was like, okay. So
Yeah,
it helped
yeah,
me
yeah.
to expect what the audience was. And now knowing that, knowing what my audience was, it's like, okay, I need to have some of these visual representations, because I know a lot of people haven't been to Japan. They don't know what these items
No,
look like.
no.
I say something and I can describe it all you want, but it's different seeing it. It really is. It's
So,
different
so
seeing it, so you can
let's
have it in
let's
your
go into
head.
that for a little bit. Let's go into that for a little while. Let's tease that out a little bit. You do use these Japanese words inside the book, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a person you just talked about. I'm that person you described. Until last weekend, doing my homework for this, I had never seen Afro Samurai. I love it, by the way. And what's the other one? The other one is called Samurai.
Samurai Champloo.
Yeah, I don't want to say it wrong. Samurai. My homeboy corrected me. I said it at work. I said Samurai Camp below. He was like shampoo. I was like,
Champloo.
my bad, my bad, y'all. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. But I was a perfect audience because I had never seen those things.
Yeah.
I'm reading your book through the show, and then seeing it made me realize, like, oh, okay. I'm connecting. If you haven't seen Afro Samurai, please do yourself a favor. Take a weekend, binge it. It's on Hulu. You'll love it. Give us the influence of that on your writing.
Like, so, like, it is like it does have a very big influence for, especially, yes, especially for this work and this book, because it really was like that first anime with a black male main character. And it's just like, wait, this is Samuel Jackson? Wait, who's doing the music? RZA from Wu-Tang Clan? What is this? And it was just like the coolest thing. And I'm just like, but wait a minute, where are the where's the women? Like, where's the black women? And it's just like, okay, all right, one of these days I'm gonna fix this. I'm gonna set it straight. I'm gonna set it straight. But it did have a really big influence, and even, I know you mentioned about having the soundtrack. Like, a lot of these properties has this music is so big, and so I also wanted to bring that into the story as well, like, like with the music, because that's such a big part of like who we are.
And let's do a play with the music right quick. I noticed in your book you have the chapter titles. They sound very reminiscent to certain song titles. Tell us about that particular artistic choice.
Okay. Yes. So there's a playlist that's included with the book, and the playlist is very specifically curated to be all Black female artists, and because I wanted to highlight them and highlight their work. And so for all the chapter titles is one of the songs from the playlist. So if you go into the book and, I know my audience, I'm writing for Black women, and those songs, you already got it in your head as you're, reading the chapter.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So once again, see, I love being a writer myself. I have different style questions. So once again, You just sit down and write the book and then go back like, oh, that's this song. Oh, that's this. Or you have a song list in mind. Okay, this is chapter title. This is chapter title. How did that go? If you don't
Yeah.
mind sharing that.
So there were definitely some songs I already immediately knew. And like I knew that I wanted, and like some of the songs I crafted the chapter around the song. Like I already knew the first song would be Break My Soul by Beyonce. Like that was the first chapter. Like it said like everything that I wanted to say in that first chapter, introducing the character and introducing the world. Some of the other songs after the fact I went and found, but there were a lot that I already knew I wanted to add. Like for example, there's Respect by Aretha Franklin, and I have had a long time had in my head like a Black woman with the sword fight scene to that song in my head for like years, and it's finally my opportunity to be like, here it is.
So you just said it. I love whenever the show naturally flows to the next question without even prompting you. Let's talk about fight scenes. I'm a long time martial art. Since I was 2, 3 years old, martial art fanatic, a child of the 80s, kung fu theater, all of that. Tell us about the crafting of a good fight scene on the page. That's incredibly difficult to pull off. How do you do it?
That's
Give
true.
it to me.
So I've also done martial arts on and off, and but that being said, I do know some people who have done martial arts and have tried to translate that to fighting scenes, and sometimes it doesn't work. Because like it truly is. Fight scenes is like writing sex scenes. Like both can be very gratuitous,
I
and
said that.
there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of action going
Yes.
on,
A lot
and
happened.
yet there's a lot happening. And so to write very well, I always think you need to center it in character. I mean, for example, each character is going to respond to a fight in very different ways. So one, like centering your fight scene in character. And there are some like little moments, for example, in Sistah Samurai, where, like just some words that I say that's just like very particular to like this character.
I
One
noticed
of
that
the, yeah,
the anime they do a lot of internal dialogue.
yeah.
Like after dude get punched, he thinking to himself all of these things and all these, before you go and stand up and wipe his mouth off. And there's a lot of internal happening in the fight.
Yes, and that was one of the other things I was going to say. Like sometimes fight scenes are like mini stories in and of itself. Like they have story beats. Like it has like a beginning, a climax, a resolution for like each of these very small fight scenes. Like you also have to think about it like as a mini story, the way you approach it.
Yeah, I had the guest Amari Richardson on my show with his book, The Kimono Legacy, which is kind of like the Black Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings. And
Mm-hmm.
I had the Chain Gang All Stars author on my show as well. Both of those have wonderful, and I love asking that question about like, how do you make these? Like, do you go out there and actually like try to choreograph the fight scene to
I
try
mean,
to
I
write
do
it?
sometimes.
Yeah, you kind of like trying to, okay, I throw a punch and then
I'm like, oh, that spin don't work.
because as a fighter, when I'm reading it, I'm seeing it. You describe being off balance, and I did this certain block, and now this thing is happening. Like you really do good at making that real.
Yeah. And that's,
And I love that.
for people who have not done martial arts and are writing fight scenes, that's two of the things that I feel like they don't take into account very often is one, balance and distance. Those are the two things that for people who haven't done martial arts and writing fight scenes, they don't really take that into account enough and how important it is.
Yeah, and you mentioned a certain audience earlier, like people that already have watched anime, for an example, right? But like you gotta think about the people that actually fight reading your books, like what they gonna think. Like
Yeah.
when I read certain military, it's these military fictional books, right? Kind of like Jack Reacher or Jack Ryan, for an example. And it's a wonderful black writer doing that right now too. But being a military guy, when they're describing certain things, I'm like, yeah, he really did that. He's not just sitting
Yeah.
at a coffee
Yeah.
shop just thinking, oh yeah, this sounds good. Like no, they're describing tactical gear, they're describing weaponry, they're describing certain vehicles. I'm like, yeah, he been around that. He ain't just playing it. So
Yeah.
we,
Yeah.
we,
Yeah.
can, we can tell. We can tell.
Yeah. Like even in my fight scenes, like some of them are very kind of snappy and quick, but I'm just like, guys, she has a sword. She knows what she's doing. These fight scenes don't last long. If you know what you're
And
doing with a
that's
sword.
real though. Like some of these movies make us see this big old long drawn
Right?
out.
Yeah. I'm like, that's not.
And you've been around it, being in Japan, Korea and Japan, stuff like that. But like, if you go on YouTube or Instagram and watch an actual samurai person training, the training seem almost boring because it's like one movement or two, they put it back in the.
Yeah.
They hop up, they do two strikes, they put it back in the. It's not this long drawn out like a forearm, like in karate, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
It's not all these movements.
Yeah.
They go two, three swings and then they putting it back into the.
And
That's how it
like, to be fair, there is a spectrum of different type of fight scenes, right? Like there's those more realistic, and then there's more cinematic, like your Marvel superhero type of fight scenes, and that's okay. The thing is, you got to keep it consistent, right? Like if one fight scene is realistic, they all kind of have to be. But if the other ones are like big over the top, they all kind of you have to stay.
Animated, they might power up for like 10 minutes and they go commercial break and you come back, you still powering up.
They still powering up. But that's the thing. Like, you can't have the next scene and suddenly he's doing it in 10 seconds. You're like, wait, but you had me wait. You had to power up for like two minutes in the last fight. What happened?
So I don't want to give the book, right? I don't want to spoil it for anybody.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the main character's self-talk in Sistah Samurai. Her self-talk, internal dialogue. I'm a big psychology guy, of course, my major. How important is self-talk? How important is how you manage your own dialogue sometimes?
And you mean like the internal dialogue in the book?
Yeah. You know, she's kind of battling this opposing this voice, if you will. She's going back and forth, almost fighting. The biggest fight is almost internal.
Yeah.
More than an external thing.
Yeah. And so this goes back to being inspired by Afro Samurai. So in Afro Samurai, there's two characters that Samuel L. Jackson voices. There's Afro, who's the main protagonist, and there's Ninja, who's kind of like the guy that follows him around. But at the very, very, very end of the show, spoiler, this has been out for 20 years, it suggests that Ninja was a part of Afro's imagination all along, that he was kind of a part of his psyche. There's theories to prove that, and that does not prove that, but that inspired.
That. Yeah, my mind is like, bruh.
Yes, yeah, the last episode where he just like, yeah. So because of that, like I wanted to do some also in an homage to that Ninja kind and where, I'm like, yeah, this makes sense for, like this, to also have like kind of like this eternal monologue I guess to do an homage, but to do an homage from a Black woman's perspective, right?
Yeah.
What are our demons? What are our internal struggles? Like, what are we fighting against?
Yeah. And can we speak on, so like survivor's remorse, I guess it would be like, the people you care about, the people you love going through certain things, you made it on the other side. They're not here anymore, but there's a lot of, I could have, I would have, I should have, and, could you speak on that part of the character?
Yeah. And so, at the time, like I think about like the pandemic and like how many people of our community didn't make it. I lost my father during the pandemic, and we lost so many people for dumb reasons. and just like that, and even in America, to gun violence, just the struggle of existing here, we lose people, and it's just that still having to exist and still having to continue and still having to carry them with us, even when they're gone.
Wow. So you just said something I didn't realize. You wrote this book during the pandemic.
Well, no, after. I wrote this one after.
Okay. Because I love to ask different authors I had on the show, like, okay, how do you imagine the book being different if the pandemic never happened? Like, what would you think would be different about the book, And what do you think? If there was no pandemic, how would these books be different? Would they even exist?
I do think it would exist because there's a lot of this book that specifically Sister Samurai that I wrote it for my family. Like I wanted to see my mom and my aunts in a fantasy novel. I wanted to see them kicking ass and taking names, and like it's inspired by the Black women in my life, the ones who are my heroes. We like the fantasy genre is such a genre of heroes, and I wanted to see my heroes in that genre. And so before I left this earth, I always wanted to do an ode to them, like to put my love for them in a written form.
So let me ask you this question: whenever they read the book, what was their response whenever they saw it? Whenever they read it? Whenever it was a real thing? What was that like?
It was fun. It was funny. My mama, she did read the book, and she was like, girl, wait, she got to do this every day? She's fighting these demons every day. You can give her a break. I'm like, yeah, mama, that's the point. And my sister, she just got home from college reading it. She was like, wait a minute. Wait, is this? Because two of the characters in the book is named for my mom and my aunt. She's like, wait, this is, you put our aunt in this book. What about me?
Back to the writing process. I love these kind of moments, right? Like you writing it. And the flip side to that is sometimes you might mention people in your books and a person like never actually reads it. That really happens.
That's true, yeah.
Like
yeah.
they never know they're in the book the whole time. They just never took the time to read the book, right? And then the opposite, you write this thing and you did put somebody in there, like, wait a minute, they read it. Like, wait a minute,
Yeah. I mean, I did bring my mom into like into the early readers. I'm like, hey, can you read it? Can you let me know what you think? Because it's I wanted to know what she thought about it, but she made fun of some of my like southernisms, but she liked it.
Yeah. I want to ask you about the beta readers.
Mm-hmm.
You have a list of beta readers. Let's talk about this for a minute as writers. First of all, how hard it is to even get beta readers to actually read the work. Second of all, what do you want back from these betas? When you're doing this beta thing, what are you expecting back? Because I don't think most people even realize that. Whenever you're a beta reader, what we need from you. So give us some of that.
Yeah. So like being a beta reader is very, very helpful because oftentimes like us as writers, we are so close to the work that it's hard to see some of like the holes or some of the things we miss. Like there are some things where I'm like, oh, I thought I wrote that in. Like I thought I like it's written down and I had the idea for it, but it's not in the text. And when I did my initial duology, I didn't have as many beta readers because one, I was a new author, no one knew who I was. But by the time I had the duology out and I'm like, hey, I have this project, like I basically got like a whole formation of Black women that showed up and was like, we here. We are here to support you and help you. Let's do this. And I am so appreciative of all of them.
Just for the audience, the back of Sistah Samurai, whenever she's giving the props and the credit, you see the list of names. I'm impressed you was able to even get that many betas to participate. It's very difficult to do. People don't being an independent author, you're not a big name person, like it's very hard to get people to take time to slow down and read your project and give you good quality feedback. That's tough.
Yeah, I was so grateful. And like and every beta reader like came at it from a different perspective because you have those beta readers that come from it from a more writer's perspective and will say like, oh, here's how to better the plot. I would like more world building here. And then you also have those beta readers who come from a reading perspective, and both are very great, who are just giving your reactions as they read, like, ha, this line is funny, like, ha, like this is great. And it's helpful, especially one, this book is very comedic. So it's like, okay, I know not to take that joke out because everyone likes it. So even just like having your reactions as a reader helps to inform, okay, like how I'm going to revise the book.
And I mentioned the difficulty in it because even whenever you find a beta and they do read the work, If they're not critical enough, they're like, oh, it's pretty good. Oh, I like it. Or you did good with that. Like I need more feedback than that to be able to,
Yeah,
have this
and
good
some
finished product. I need the critical, you know.
yeah, and not everyone functions that way. So sometimes it does help to have like a list of very specific questions, like at the end to send them for those people who are just like, oh, I like it, and so you give them some questions to think about, like, oh, for example, one of the ones I asked, one of my questions I asked was, what was your favorite fight scene? What was your least favorite? So the least favorite one I worked on and made it better. Their favorite fight scene is the ramen fight, the fight
See,
scene in the ramen shop. I knew. Okay, don't touch that one. That was fire.
this is why I love doing this show with the writers, like to really talk about the nuances and the behind the scenes. Like this is the good stuff that we need as writers. Like, as you're saying it, my mind even clicking like, okay, that's a good idea. Kind of give them a guided questions
Yeah,
to kind of
yeah,
guide them. That's an awesome idea.
yeah.
Awesome. Now let's separate this. You have the beta readers, you had your proofreader, and
Hmm.
there's still like the editor and everything. That's different roles. It's not all one thing. So
Yeah,
break that down for those that don't realize. Like just because the beta's ready, that means it
yeah.
still could be fixed. It still have things to catch.
Yes, yes, yeah. So there are definitely different types of editors. So there's the copy edit, there's the developmental editor, which kind of looks at the big overview of plot, character, structure. Then there's the copy editing, the line editing, and the proofreading. All of those things. I did a copy editor and I did a proofreader, and for I specifically for this one, I got someone in my family I trusted to do the copy editing, specifically because this book has a lot of African American vernacular English in Sister Samurai. And so I needed someone who knew what that was.
Bruh,
so so
you just said
sometimes
a mouthful. Yes.
so sometimes for specific projects, I'm looking for specific people because I'm like, I don't want to pay you all this money and hours to correct something that don't need fixing.
Like I said what I said. I know
Yeah,
what I said right there. I saw
yeah,
the little red squiggly line. I saw it too. That's what I want.
yeah.
So what do you say to the people that say, you know what, they got all this technology now, we got different apps you can use to try to self edit. Because we talking about independent authors, we talking about trying to some of the money involved and everything like that. So the people that's trying to cut corners, you know
Hmm.
what, I'm gonna just do myself, I'm gonna go to this little app. What do you say to that person, or what do you advise to that person when it comes to they investing in your project, investing in yourself, and things like that?
Yeah. I heavily advise to not to cut corners for the first project. Um, get the developmental editor, get the proofreader, get the line edits, because after that, it will show you what your biggest mistakes, your most common mistakes are. It'll show you what those things that to always look out for. So if you want to cut corners for your second one, you already know to look out for those mistakes because you've already done it before. You already know, oh, this is what I'm weak on. Let me fix it. So for like starting out, I highly suggest to do it so that you can learn to get better and not need this as much. So for example, I listed all those edits. I didn't do a developmental editing because I already know plot structure. Like I already know storytelling. I already know where my strengths are, and I didn't feel like that was something I needed. Um, but especially like when you're starting out, like definitely get that feedback. That's the way to improve your craft. That's the way to get better.
You said the whole mouthful right there. I'm loving it. I love the response. I appreciate that. Let's play with it and tease. Let's be fantasy a little bit, right? So we see right now. I'm loving it. All of these books being turned into Hulu series and Disney Plus series. All this stuff is happening. Out of all of your work so far, if some could get picked up to be a series, which one would it be? Which one?
Sister Samurai. I want a black anime, a black
Like it?
woman protagonist, main character anime. I want an anime. I want it voiced by Regina King.
Ah, she had the actors already and everything. Okay, the voice actors. Okay,
Yes,
okay, okay.
yes, like
Um,
to yes.
this is a trick question. I love asking authors this question. If Netflix or whoever say, look, will give you a certain amount of money to take the project. You have no longer rights to the project. They're gonna change the character. They're gonna change the names. They're gonna change imagery. You can't do nothing about it. How do you feel about that? And do you still do it? Are you like, no, what? This is my project. You can't touch it. How you take that kind of thing?
Well, I'm gonna say like I'm an indie author for a reason. If it ain't right, then because it has my name on it, like I want to be proud of it. And I mean, like, and I understand a lot of people when they get into that position, they don't know what they're going to say. Like they don't know what position in life where they are at, to be fair and to be honest. So, I'm not going to criticize you for choosing that.
No.
But, I'm such a control. I don't know if I can do it. Just me personally.
It's a trick question because, like, for a lot of independent authors, I can't speak for everybody, you might not make $100 grand off of your project.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Yeah.
So if they offer you $100 grand for this thing, it trumps probably 5 times what you probably made on that project by yourself. However you sell it, right?
Yeah, and that's real.
That's real. And I'll look at it. This is Sean talking. You have other projects, and you still writing currently. Like you can have this one book. You want that one book, man? Take the book.
Yeah,
But after that, you're gonna have a sticker on it that says the author of blah 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 on Netflix is gonna be on the front of the book. Everything all right after. And now my book's gonna really get the traction after
That's trtrue. And it very well could depend on the project. I definitely would be more hesitant with Sistah Samurai because, like, I don't trust people with black shit. I don't. You got to show me who's involved.
I don't want to say his name incorrectly. I'm not trying to, but the Percy Jackson series is on Netflix. It's on Disney Plus now. It just came out. But like, I heard the author of those books. His name is Rick something.
Rick Riordan.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, him. I heard him talking in an interview a long time years ago, whenever the Percy Jackson movie came out. He was saying, like, as they was on the set working on the movie, he went to the set a couple of times and saw how much they was changing, and he was like, I don't even want to look at this. Like, it was so different than what he wrote and what he envisioned. He said he would never do it again. Like, I don't even want to look at it. That really, really blew my mind when he said that.
Yeah, but I think it shows because it shows in the fans too. Like if it wasn't perfect, they wouldn't be making another one. And not only that, but with this new one, they have purposely come out and said like, hey, this is closer to the books compared to the movie.
Mm-hmm. And I love George R. Martin with Game of Thrones, right? Like, well, at least initially, he was very, very much on the set. Really, really out there orchestrating. And the shows and that too, because reading the books, I'm like, man, this is a lot spot on to what the series was, right?
Yeah.
I know it might sound backwards to some people. I like watching the movie or the series first, and then my love for maybe going to get the book and read the book. Some folks I totally want the book first. Oh man, Color Purple coming out, and then we go and read the book first. I'm like, man, watch the movie, and then you get sparked to go get the book. That's how I work. That's me. What do you think?
I don't know about that. Nah, I gotta read the book first.
How about this? People always say the book is better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So hear me out. If I watch the movie first, the book is going to only take off, like go up, like, oh, the character this, and then the background. If I do it the opposite direction, I'm let down. Like, oh, they didn't show this, and they didn't say that, and that character messed up, and it could have did this better. Now I'm picking it apart.
You know I mean that's fair. That's fair. Like enjoy your joys, right? Like no one has to do things certain way. I personally like to read because I'm a writer, right? So, I am very interested to see like how certain things are adapted. Because adaptations book to screen is never one-on-one. No. So it's very interesting to see like, okay, I know what the book is. So sometimes when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, okay, so why do they adapt it this way? Like who's adapting? Like I'm just analyzing it. that's kind of fun to me.
In Game of Thrones, for an example, when it comes to some of the characters' ages, when you read the book, their age, they're doing these things. You watch the series and certain things they're doing or what's happening to them. It's like, wow, that's jacked up for a person this age to go through that. Like, you know, put it together in your mind, like, wait a minute, they what age?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
and you can definitely understand, like, oh, okay, it makes more sense in the books, but like why they decided to age them up and why that choice was made for a more mainstream audience.
Before we get out of here,
Yeah.
I want to touch on something very important, very serious at the end. The back of the book, I'm not giving it, but you have a list of black female names, our fallen sisters, if you will, man. Tell us the importance of that and the impact of that and why that's so big. Even throughout the whole story, is the sisters in mind, So tell us about
Yeah. So, one of the big parts about this book, and really at the core about this book, is homecoming and, what that means to Black women and coming home and, just that action that we do every day. And I definitely wanted to just honor the people who, and honor the women who didn't make it home or who were violated in their homes, and to acknowledge and honor them because you know we do carry them, we do carry their legacy, and to remember and to keep fighting for our fallen ones.
you had a list of names. I recognize some of those names in there.
Hmm.
So in the back of the book, the list you have, I'm asking, are
Hmm.
those all actual people that are no longer here, or some of those is it
Yes,
mixed? They're all actual people that
all the names are no longer here. They are all listed in the African American Policy Forum, which raises awareness for Black women who were killed by police violence.
wow. So say it again,
All
the
of those
African
names.
American Policy
African
Forum.
American Policy Forum. They
And it's
have a
on it's
list.
online. Okay.
Yes, it's online, and they have
Okay.
a list, and you can, and they'll and feature all of their stories.
Wow. I'm about to
Yes,
go.
in the ebook, there is a direct link to the website in the ebook that you can go straight to it.
Here we go. Here we go. More bells and whistles. And I have the ebook. I'm gonna go check it out tonight. I'm gonna go look at that link, man. I thank you very, very much again for taking the time to come on my show and telling me yes, being my second guest ever on the
Uh,
YouTube channel, man. I totally enjoyed your books, your writing, characters, the fight scenes, and as you're making more projects, I want to definitely welcome you back anytime you got something for promo and everything. Man,
yeah.
come back, please. And I would love to be a beta in the future, a beta reader. I don't know if you
Okay,
think
remember
that.
that promise.
Yeah, yeah. Come on, man. We do it. We do it. I love beta reading. I love being the beta.
Awesome.
I've
Yeah.
been the beta a lot of times, and that's why I take it so seriously. I know as a writer how hard it is to get that. So yeah, whenever somebody asks me to be a beta, I'm like, yeah, I'm all for it, man. And, as
Yeah.
far as the invite, yeah, I love returning guests. I love it, man. So
Awesome. Yeah.
I appreciate
Whenever
you.
you want me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Matter of fact, you know what? In a few months from now, I'll bring you back for the Bones to the Wind, the duology. I'll bring you back. We do that.
Okay. All right. All right.
I'm
Let's
telling you
go.
right now on air. I'm telling you that just happened. Man. Well, thank you very much. Y'all enjoy yourself. This has been another Sean P experience, and I have my next guest lined up next Friday. You'll see a flyer real soon for that. I got shows lined up until mid-February already. I'm telling you, the shows are coming. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the little notification bell on the YouTube. Share it to a friend. And I appreciate y'all. It's Sean P. Events out.